So Alex,
Joel.
why are we here today?
Well, I thought it'd be a great idea to talk about a film composer for once. In depth. If you've been following us for some time, you may have noticed that we often take the time to mention the musical score of a film. This is because music is extremely important, not only to the films we discuss, but also to us personally. So today we're going to highlight the work of Zdeněk Liška, who may have been the greatest film composer who ever lived. Liška was Czech and lived in Prague for most of his life, and he adjusted comfortably to working as a composer under the communist regime. This was probably due to music being an art form less prone to censorship than film or painting. Not only that, during the Cold War, the East wanted to set itself apart from the West, and so experimentation was the norm. Liška could write anything from a delightful waltz in a children's film to surreal electronic music. Sometimes he would even help recut a movie to better suit the music. Of the well over 200 scores he wrote, only 7 have been released commercially as of this video.
Okay, so between the two of us, I know comparatively almost nothing about Zdeněk Liška. I've encountered his music in films, I've listened to some of it, really loved a lot of it, but as between the two of us, you're definitely the expert. So I guess over the course of this video, I'll basically just be moderating things, but I think you'll pretty much be taking the reins here. So let's backpedal here real quick, and let's talk about, I guess, the genesis of you finding Zdeněk Liška.
Yeah, it was. I remember one night there was at Delaware College of Art and Design, there was a surrealist animation potluck, and one of the films that they showed was The Cabinet of Jan Svankmajer by the Quay brothers, and they used all Zdeněk Liška music from Svankmajer's films in it. And I mean, just showing the animation in itself was amazing, but hearing Liška's music, which it opens with his music from Beat or The Flat by Svankmajer, which is a film about this surreal apartment where nothing works right, and that music immediately just kind of catapults you into this archaic, mysterious labyrinth of strangeness and beauty and like wonder. I was just like never the same after that, and I had to like go like find out more about him.
Yeah, there's nothing more wondrous than a Peter Sellers look-alike with a chicken.
Yeah, I remember that we were both like, that guy looks like Peter Sellers.
Fabulous. So from there, from then on, after encountering his working on Svankmajer's films, what was next? Like, what was the next stop?
You know, I encountered some other films that sort of moved into view, like Mala Morská Vila, The Little Mermaid, which is the really fascinating looking Czech adaptation of The Little Mermaid. He did some very experimental and also traditional scoring for that. It's ethereal and wispy and just incredibly beautiful and poignant in a lot of ways. Something about, Liška just composing melodies and themes. They just get in your head. And he also like writes a very beautiful song for that movie. Yeah, there was that, and then at the same time, I also encountered the score for The Cremator, Because then I started searching Liška. Like that was the one that, you know, everyone kind of, and that's kind of his most famous music, I think, is the theme from the Cremator, which is like this waltz with this just like otherworldly, disembodied voice just singing. And the funny story about that, when they were playing back the recording,
we were watching the preview, about 15 of us, I suppose. When it came to that scene, Mrs. Hrušinský, the late Rudolf Hrušinský's wife, said, "May God punish the lot of you."
but yeah, that, like, I remember we watched the entirety of The Cremator in one of my classes. Actually, it was a class about the Quay brothers. I'm watching the movie and hearing the music, and I'm thinking to myself, this is incredibly beautiful and mysterious and awe-inspiring.
Utrpení je zlo, které máme odstraňovat, nebo aspoň zmírňovat. Čím dřív se člověk navrátí v prach, tím se dřív osvobodí, promění, osvítí, převtělí.
And there's no way that this music is ever being released or even found. Like, I just thought this thing was just doomed to obscurity.
Mm-hmm. So going beyond your initial encounters with it, once you actually started researching more Liška, what kind of things did you discover about him and about the music that he did?
Like, there's not many photos of him, but it seemed like he was kind of thriving, just, you know, happily composing music. And one thing I did learn that was, like, in his hometown, there was the sound of trumpets would accompany funerals, and like the sort of echoing quality shows up in a lot of his scores. There's one score of his for a movie called Pavlinka, which opens with that, and it's kind of the central theme of the film, is this trumpet reverbing, it's echoing. He did music for some films by Carol Zeman, the amazing Carol Zeman, animator, hybrid filmmaker, where he incorporated stop motion and live action in his films. And he did music for this one film of his called Inspiration, which is a gorgeous film. And the music in Liška's scores perfectly accompanies the visuals. Like, it's this synesthetic quality where the music has like a shape to it, adhering to the visual in a really weird way, where in Malomushka Vila there's a scene, and this is before I saw the movie, I'd hear the score and then I'd envision like a zoom in, and it's like, it just sounds like a zoom. And like when I watched the movie, at that part in the queue, there was a zoom.
Žalem vzdychá paní, takové to bylo smutné milování.
Somehow his instrumentation and use of scoring was like perfect for the cinematography.
The music does take over the film in the best possible way. You know, sometimes music can seem overbearing or distracting, but this is something different altogether, where it's this, you know, it's more of like a dance between what's going on screen and what's going on in the soundtrack, and they both, they play off of each other in really fascinating ways. So it's a very happy takeover in that sense.
Oh yeah. There's hardly any other composers or films that like allow the score to be as dominant.
And he also impressed himself upon other aspects of production, didn't he?
Yeah, there's some editing.
So Zeman sat down with Zdeněk Liška, and then Liška recut it and threw out anything that wasn't essential, and gave the film a whole new tempo. And then, of course, it was a great success. And it was all thanks to Liška.
But yeah, the Karel Zeman films, you saw Baron Prachiel with this, and that's like an incredible fantasy film.
Yeah, it was absolutely stupendous. I mean, just what Karel Zeman did, I honestly can't believe it. You know, in some ways, it's almost like Georges Méliès from the future. You know, it's sort of like taking that kind of filmmaking into a new technical tricks, but all, you know, in favor of this really incredible telling of a classic story.
There's like a war film, I think it's about the Nazi invasion of Czechoslovakia or somewhere around there. It's called Sokolovo. And that one's very ominous, but very grand. Which one of Liška's staples is a wordless chorus, and he uses that in the score to really great effect, very haunting. That's one key word to use with Liška is haunting.
Yes.
Yeah,
very much so.
Haunting beauty. He really didn't do like concert work. The only thing he did that was really like a concert work was this piece he did called Music for the Shah of Persia. It is as grand as you think it sounds, and he takes full advantage of it being thematically centered towards like the East, the Middle East, and
there's a processional quality to it as well.
Yeah, and it was commissioned by the Shah of Persia for the 2000th anniversary of the founding of the Persian Empire, and so
my goodness,
apparently they asked. This is like hearsay, but they said that like Leonard Bernstein was asked, and then Bernstein actually, I think being aware of Liška somehow, which just blows my mind, but he said that he couldn't do that, but he said the person you should get to do it is Liška.
Well, perhaps it didn't happen quite like that, I don't know. Liška always made a big joke of these things. But it's a fact that Farah Diba turned up in Prague and telephoned Liška. And it's also a fact that Liška did write the music for the Persian celebrations.
and you know, he just takes this the weird, like, into the past, into like the mystery of the past, and then you can sort of feel the progression into like the present and then into the future. It has this quality towards the end, but it's an hour long, this symphony basically. It's on YouTube to find it. It's incredible. Yeah, they should do a new recording of music for the Shah of Persia. That would be fantastic.
So out of, how many scores did he do? Is it 200?
Over 200.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So out of all those, very few have seen official release, especially over here. So what do you got? It's show and tell time.
Well, I have about half of his discography right here with me.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, I'm bracing
Here we
myself.
go. There it is. Pretty much half of his discography. Half of his discography right here. There's a label called Finders Keepers Records, which is a great label, and they release a lot of really good stuff. And they started out with Liška by releasing a score from Mala Morská Vila. I don't have that CD though, but I do have the second Liška score that they released for them, which is the Cremator. And it's double billed with a score from Morgiana, which is done by Lubos Fischer, who did another score that was released on Finders Keepers Records, which is Valerie and her Week of Wonders. And this is yours, though.
Yes.
But yeah, and that's a beautiful score in its own way. Fischer's music is great too. But yeah, and in the Cremator, here's the thing. I know I said I can't imagine the Cremator score ever being found or released at all. Certainly not in this form. But this is the best, I think, release of Liška's music that there has been, because it's complete. It sounds great. You can tell that it was taken from really good quality elements. So yeah, this is fantastic. And then there was The Shop on Main Street. An American LP was released at the time when it won an Oscar for Best Foreign Language Film. So that's one. And the second album of his music ever released was also an American release only. And that was for, at the time that this other film in the 70s was released, called, the Czech title translates to Desire, called Anada, but in America it was just called Adrift. And that was released in kind of like I can imagine the art house circuit. And it's just this MPO Records, it's just like a very small, I think it was like a specialty label. And there's really no tracks. It's like one long track. And I think they repeat some tracks, but it sounds great. This score is very beautiful and melancholy and just like dramatic, with lots of the wordless chorus used in it. Then Finders Keepers did recently come out with a release of his music for Akari Xb1, the science fiction epic. Yeah, this is a very nice, it's a very nice release and everything. Got some liner notes and stuff, and it's really good. And this score is incredible in terms of early electronic scoring, after Forbidden Planet and whatnot, but this uses electronics and also a weird early iteration of sampling, in that he took an orchestra and had each musician play a scale. And after they played the scale, he dismissed them or they'd stop, and he just had all these scales, and he took those and cut them up and rearranged them and reused them and basically had this quasi-synthetic orchestra.
It's unbelievable, like really a abrasive sound collage, but at the same time it's very listenable. And
Yeah, but that's the thing. He can be experimental, but it's still enjoyable. There's a structure there. Yeah, he was just fantastic going from one one form of music to the other. But I want to say some things about this release. I realized after I was listening to it, I was like, okay, it sounds like there's some sound effects on this. It's very good audio quality. Like, it sounds like it's mixed from, master elements, but the more I listened to it, the more I thought, in some cases I can hear like sound effects in the back or chatter in the background or in one scene. Some of the cues sound like they fade in too early or out. The Malomoshka Vila score, also by Finders Keepers, kind of has the same thing, and there's like obvious sound effects in that. Finders Keepers doesn't talk about where they get their music, where they get the
elements.
The elements, like, was this a master, was this a music and effects track, was it a music stem? But the thing is, we don't know what the case is with this, because they don't say anything. And one of the cardinal sins in film soundtrack releases is having sound effects or dialogue in the tracks with the music.
Hold back. Wait a minute. Go right. Stop.
Has anybody seen Sam Lowry?
They could have at least done what Film Score Monthly did one time and say this is an archival edition because we only had to work with music and effects or
yeah, like the Satan bug. I know
like the
they
Satan
did it for
bug.
that.
It says archival edition on the case. Yes, but here it's nothing, and it's it's just kind of like, well, we take it or leave it.
Yeah, it's a big old mystery.
It's a good listening experience, but I really wish I kind of knew more about the situation, because it's like you have the cremator. And this score is complete, and it's like ideal. And this is sort of less than ideal, but I'll still take it. But
it exists.
It exists now, and I think maybe it was a music and effects track that was part of the film being remastered and released on second run.
Oh yeah, the British home video label,
which is great because they also released a bunch of Czech films. From that period, region-free, most of them, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So such are the travails of a soundtrack collector. Mm-hmm. You hope that there are masters that still exist, and you hope that they found all the cues, and you hope that they didn't stick dialogue or sound effects and settle for that and not tell you about them. But it's okay. It's all an adventure, and And I think it's great that more people are going to be able to appreciate Liška's music. And I think they'll release more now.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I mean, we have a lot of the stuff is on YouTube. So
yes,
less than ideal quality perhaps, but it is out there.
It's fun.
For people's listening.
It's good to share.
Yeah, well, great. Well, thanks for cluing us into all this fantastic Liška knowledge.
Oh, I've been just storing it up, waiting to just divulge.
Yeah. There's definitely a few topics like that I think we've been wanting to cover, but haven't really been able to within the video essay format. So maybe we'll do sit-downs like this more often.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, covering lots of other odd topics that maybe we wouldn't be able to get to in a normal movie review.
Oh yeah,
so.
You can count on it.
Yeah, sounds good. So until next time, I'm Joel.
I'm Alex.
So we will see you later.